Namaskar. Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a video and a podcast show that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. We're now in the season 3 of our show and have over 1,000 recordings for you, which you can see at www.tvcy.in. Today, it's my pleasure and privilege to welcome Dr. Tristha Ramamurthy, founder of Ekya Schools, which was founded in 2010, a chain of dynamic schools designed with the aim of bringing pedagogically sound research-based learning experiences to India. Dr. Tristha spearheads K-12 initiatives under the CMR group, overseeing State Board, CBSE, ICSE, IGCSE, and pre-university institutes with an overall strength of 7,000 students. Dr. Tristha brings cutting-edge educational advancements to Ekya through her exposure to the principles of Project Zero Classroom from Harvard University, inquiry-based learning from Reggio Emilia approach in Italy, and design thinking from the Standard Design School. CMR University is a private university in Karnataka, established and governed by the CMR University Act 2013. CMR University aims to promote and undertake the advancement of university education in technical health, management, life sciences, and other allied sectors and professional education. In her role as the Provost of CMR, Dr. Tristha leads transformative academic development initiatives to support students during their time at the university and beyond. She aspires to transform higher education by preparing youth with skills for the future of work by enabling them to drive meaningful change at the global level. Dr. Tristha believes in the power of community and education to encourage individuals to develop skills and build spaces that flourish. She has a clear vision, drive, and propensity for authentic leadership, which complements her ambitions to develop a progressive education environment for young people. She is the chapter chair of YPO Bangalore and holds a doctorate in education from King's College London. Her past research has focused on topics including educational equity, teacher motivation, education policy, and curriculum construction. Her academic history includes a master's degree in education from Stanford University and a bachelor's degree in business management and political science from Singapore. Welcome to the show, Dr. Tristha.
Thank you so much.
Yes. So, Tristha, education has been in the news for long. Mm-hmm. And of late, it's talked about a lot. There are a lot of talks about changes required in the education system. There's a lot of talk about how the current education system has become outdated and needs to be made more relevant. Now, in scheme of this, I want to ask you, where is Ekya? What are your thoughts on it? What does Ekya do? How does it make a difference? And also, I want to add to this, how did you get into this?
Okay. So Shesh, Ekya is a chain of schools. We build our own curriculum in-house. We consider ourselves to be board agnostic and progressive school system. So we design learning for kids from the age of 2.5 to 18. And
2.5 to 18, okay.
Yes, in the K-12 space.
Which means to start at the preschool level.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So students join us in the Montessori system at 2.5, and they go on to graduate grade 12 at 18. And our schools, we run State Board, PUC, ICSE, CBSE, but we design our curriculum based on international benchmarks. What does a 4-year-old need to learn that other 4-year-olds around the world are learning? And so we really curate this experience for children. We built it for scale, so we hope we can address more and more students in the future.
So how did you get inspired? What led you to take this path? Because there are a lot of lucrative, education has become very lucrative, but the time when you would have embarked on it, I just want to get your insights as to how did it all start for you and what brought you into this.
So I grew up really wanting to be in education, Shesh. I know girls grow up playing teacher, that's a reality for me. My mother started a school when I was about 5 years old. She started with 6 students in a guava orchard owned by my family. And then she built the CMR group. Today we have 20,000 students of all age groups, including postdoctoral scholars. And so I watched her build education institutions, and I was very inspired. And I grew up wanting to be like her. And I felt like there is no other work that I could do, no other way I could contribute to the country than be in education and solve the problems that are there and at scale.
Interesting. So what do you think, are the key elements of education which need what I should say revisiting, or which need correction, or which need improvement? So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, this list is endless, Shesh, really.
But what would be
we have
the key
such a long way.
takeaways?
Yeah, I think what to teach, when to teach it. So, if we were to teach science, what to teach in science, when to teach it, at what age group should they be learning particular skills that are relevant to that age group, and then how to teach it.
Right.
What's the best way to teach it that reaches the learner where the learner is at?
Right.
So what to teach, when to teach it, and how to teach it. I think this is broadly the problem statement that we have. And this applies to adult learning. It applies to on the K-12 space. And a bigger problem that we have is who's going to teach this? Where are our teachers, and are we equipped to reach the learner where they're at with the skill set and the resources we have at the moment?
Right. So it's interesting, what to teach, how to teach, when to teach. It's a very interesting thing. But I remember when I was growing up in the school, in our times, it was you went to the school and teacher went at a certain pace, and they taught and they did the job and they went. They were great teachers. There's absolutely no denying that. They were very sincere. But the question was, they just went at a very steady pace. Now, even now, when my children go to school, there are some schools still are in that mold, caught up. How are you addressing that? When you say what and how, can you just throw a little insight and example as to how is Ekya making a difference, and what is it? How to give us an example. Okay. I think that would be a good way to understand the whole drive and initiative.
So what we've designed, Shesh, and what we've relooked at is really revamping the learning experience from pre-primary, right? So if you pick, say, science education, there are particular skills that we need for science learning, say scientific temperament, thinking like a scientist, building a hypothesis, communicating it, looking at patterns, looking at cause and effect. So these are all components of science. And you can imagine the same applies to math, social science, English, computer science, visual art, performing arts, those different areas. So what we have done is take science learning. We have built what is the objective of science learning, very clarified it very, very clearly. Then each grade level we've built, what are the objectives you want to achieve by grade level? So what do 11-year-olds need to learn, 12-year-olds, 13-year-olds? So there is what we call in education vertical integration of learning, so that the child progresses through that learning system. And then once we have this sort of map laid out, we have broken it down into units. What will they learn? What skill will that address? So if you look at it, a very, very complex, what will they learn? When will they learn it? And then we go into micro planning. They are going to learn about, say, weather patterns. When will they learn it, and exactly how will they learn it? And then this goes into instruction in the classroom. What would they do in the first 10 minutes, and then the next 20 minutes, and then what group project are they going to do? What collaborative project are they going to do? What project-based thing they're going to represent their learning? So then we have mapped that out. Right. And that's what we take our teachers and our students through. And we check for evidences of are they learning the skills we want them to learn, not as much content. And so we really flip and change the kind of questions we ask, the assessments that we do to see if our students are learning the way we want them to. And this is called standards-based education. Right.
Interesting. So, I just to staying on with the topic, there was a enormous emphasis on the children, which is, I think, awesome, because I think children are now the center of it. But the question is, even if one were to build a complete ecosystem which is ideally suited for a child. Now, one of the key components of this ecosystem are the teachers, because I think if teachers are not trained or well, what I should say, exposed to the methods, the new methods of teaching, it can still. How is it? How is the country we are seeing a change in, or you are experiencing that change, or you are driving that change?
Shesh, this is absolutely the problem and the bottleneck in the system. And for us, we really need to take the teacher and transform the way she looks at teaching and learning, because you teach the way you've been taught. So our teachers across the country, across the world, cannot reach learners where they are because they haven't experienced teaching and learning in that pattern. So this really is a leap. And so we hire for intention, we hire for passion, and then we train for skill and capability. And you have to keep doing continuous professional development with teachers, support them in this journey of becoming educators for the new world. So this is really the struggle and the challenge.
Interesting. No, I think I agree with you. But just to also ask you, while you are taking this initiative and doing what it is, where do you think we as a country, the largest system, the education system, the policy, one way to say, where is that, and what is the role of theirs? Because you are still governed by the parameters which are defined. You can't go outside of that, even if you want to, which you think that there is another way to knowledge into play, but you have to stay within the realms of defined. So talk to us a little more about our education system at large, our policy, and what you see and what has changed, and what would you want to see it to be?
Shish, I think I have a very positive outlook on just the future of education in India. Young country, bright, hunger for growth, hunger for learning, and great aspiration. And I think with the national education policy that's come out, the focus on education is going to be very high. And NEP is very dreamlike, very aspirational in its content, but I think it's a great start. I feel positive about it. We are going to be challenged in, again, who is going to implement this, and are we really ready? Do we have the capabilities to do it at scale? And when we're building something out, we have to address the very bottom of the pyramid and the elite, and this entire country has to move forward in that system. Correct. So I feel very, very positive, and I think with the COVID, the blessing is the technology adaptation, the openness, the way we're using data. A lot of growth is going to take place in the coming years, and I think we're going to be challenged adequately.
You made a mention about COVID, and I've seen this at the workplace, at our workplace, and many other companies. People seem to have, the work seems to have not suffered as much, because people have found a way to work from home, and the technology has supported them, and you're on your video calls using various different platforms, and it's working very well. So everybody has, created a very robust, platforms for them. Now, as a school, how did you people deal with that phase? And, what were your learnings from that? What do you think, is going to work? And will that help you for future to I'm trying to club in many questions just to, get a little more detailed insight from you, because there is a big population which lives in the rural segment. Now, would they also get a chance to remotely connect with you people and undertake the benefits which you are bringing to the table?
To answer your last question first, Shesh, not yet. We haven't thought about that because COVID has been so dynamic. We really don't know what next academic year is looking like. So our bandwidth has been on our existing students, but our learnings definitely can be taken across anywhere to all kinds of subsections of the society. For us, when we when we went into the first lockdown, we thought we are going to reopen school, everything is going to be fine, June 2020, so we're going to come back, but that wasn't the case. And what we did during the first lockdown was really reimagine virtual school. And my entire team feels very happy that all the years I pushed technology down, into the system, it really set us apart when we actually needed it, and that was during COVID. So we spent all of lockdown one reimagining school. So when we launched, we were ready to launch virtual. And we did virtual office hours, breakfast clubs for kids to hang out, talk to each other. We redid our curriculum maps, and what I talked about, when they will learn, what they will learn. We redid it for a virtual scenario. And so the success of our program, we saw it within the first 2 months of school implementation, where other schools were still trying to figure out how do we do this. And so that was a major learning. And I think what it really accelerated for us is technology adoption. And the second thing that really helped with COVID for us was, parents suddenly saw what magic teachers do in the classroom. We were in everybody's living room, and they could see the effort it takes. When you're managing one child at home, you think it's different, but when we're managing 30 children and we're trying to do it virtually, I mean, this truly what teachers do is magical. And that really, we got so many letters from parents and so much praise and so much admiration and, love for teaching and the teaching field, that I think that's what COVID really got to us.
Wow. No, I think I couldn't agree more, because I've seen this with my own son, and then I also see many of our friends' children. What were their experiences like, and they seem to be, at least the children are very comfortable. So I think the key is the parents bring their anxiety to every aspect. That's a different story. But I think children seem to be very much there, enjoying this whole engagement online. They seem to be not very, concerned or disturbed or lost.
Yes.
So
children have been really resilient through this.
Yes. So Tristha, if when you talk education, and and when you talk of certain countries in Europe who have taken, particularly countries like Finland, countries like some of the Scandinavian countries, what they've done with education has been very fabulous. So they are said to be the trendsetters in many aspects. Now, where is India? Now, India is today, there are a lot of battles which are going on in the minds and at various places. What should be, we are still, I think, reinventing ourselves in many places and in many ways. Now, with that happening, how do you think, what is the role of the government schools in India? And where are they sitting? What are the private schools in India? And others are the bigger schools and institutions like what you have it. And then there are international schools which are out there. So how are they adopting? Where are they all? First, I want you to comment on what is happening in the international level, and then talk about what's happening at the India level. How are these schools all addressing the gaps?
Shesh, if you look at the PISA ratings, and just India is very, very far behind in terms of learning achievement. And we have a long way to go as a country, right? And that's because we're so large and so diverse. How do we really represent ourselves adequately? And so then, as you rightly pointed out, we have the different subsections of schools and subsections of students that fall on different gradation when compared to the international benchmarks. And so and it won't be fair for me to comment and generalize, because there are exceptional schools in all categories. But government schools, because of scale and access, might be at a bit more of a disadvantage. And if you have to roll out any curricular innovation, it takes so much effort for it to percolate all the way to the bottom. And therefore, agility and flexibility is higher in smaller school setups. An individual international school can make changes and transitions to curriculum much more easier. A private system like ours can also make changes, but it's harder because we have multiple schools. So I think each school is at a very different level, and I mean this is also corresponds to sort of the fees and the resources and the infrastructure and the exposure that the students get. But that being said, all the children across all schools, I find no difference between the capability and the passion that children bring into the classroom. So whether it's international school, whether it's schools like ours, or whether it's in a government school, kids are just as brilliantly bright. So I think we have to figure out how we're going to cater to all of these children, where they are.
Very well said. Very well said. I think I couldn't agree more, because there are no straight answers. You have to deal with whatever hand you've been dealt with, and you have to see through that. So, one other thing which has come up often in my talks with various people is that there is Sanskrit is a very, very ancient language, and is said to be mother of all languages. And it's also spoken that the much of the database which you work on the various technology platforms, Sanskrit is the most apt way of building platforms on. I want to know what is happening to it, and what is your take? How do you see that? Because though Sanskrit is our language, something which our ancestors grew up, and we talked about it, you have gone far away from it. So what is your take? How do you see that? How do you see that influencing the future, and what is its role in the current system?
So, Shesh, I mean, the NEP specifically talks about Sanskrit. It brings Sanskrit back to the forefront, yes, and it does lay emphasis on Sanskrit being in school, and so there is going to be a fair amount of focus on Sanskrit and reviving that in India in the years to come. That is the first point. The second is where it is right now is, schools do offer Sanskrit. We offer Sanskrit as an option for third language, and then can be shifted into second language sometimes. So children do learn Sanskrit, but they don't use it as much. It is seen as a subject that is good for scoring, and there's a perception of the way Sanskrit is positioned is very different. But I think with the NEP and sort of our focus on philosophy, ancient wisdom, bundling all of those things, and I think in the years to come, children should go back to these kind of practices and thought processes. As we have technology on one end, we should be looking at what do the ancient texts say, what is the ancient wisdom saying, and it's nothing to do with religion, but it is an intellectual discussion and a philosophical thought process that we should be engaging in, and Sanskrit is a base for that. So I think we will see more of that coming up, one from the NEP, and two, I think just our children being mindful, coming back to the core. And when you look at different countries, Shesh, if you look at the social science curriculum for different countries, and we did this, we saw that every country is focusing on what they are most proud of. Right? You look at Australia, they talk about the Maori culture, right? Their social science curriculum talks to and takes children through this journey where they love their country and they understand my country is unique in these ways and forms. Every country has designed social science curriculum like that. And so, as we internationalize ourselves, and as a country, if we become more global, we go out, we also have to come back to our roots. And I think Sanskrit is one avenue, but there are so many more that we should be coming back to.
Interesting. So I have one more question, which is always, and I recently did a little survey on LinkedIn as well on this, is that, if you look at in the work life, a lot of leaders and the good team players have a great sports background, right? But at the time of the sports at the school level, at the college level, is not something which anybody talks about. Even at the hiring level, we don't lay much emphasis on hiring, though we as an organization look at it very differently. But I see a lot of companies not attaching significant importance to sports. As an educationist, what do you think, and how do you people bring sports into the lives of children, and how do that? And what is the where does and how much emphasis does it lay?
Yeah, I mean, definitely it's important. Just health, wellness. We're seeing childhood obesity. We're seeing so many issues just in terms of mm, children nowadays. And I think sports and engaging in activities that challenge you physically and build sportsmanship, very very important. Whether you win or not is not as critical. Towards this, Shesh, what I'm starting off is what I'm calling the pioneer schools. I'm launching schools on niche areas, and sports is one, a sports
Right.
focused school. I'm launching a arts focused school, school on ancient wisdom, school on sustainability, farming, beekeeping. There's a whole new concept that I'm launching in the K-12 space. So not just sports, I think as students should be able to specialize and excel in niche areas.
Right.
And
Right.
we no longer can say I'm good at everything. We should be looking at specialization and excelling. And they
Right.
say 10,000 hours in something and then you're a master at it. So
Right.
what is that field that you're going to pick? Whether it's sports to build sportsmanship, whether it's the arts, whether it's
Right.
philosophy, whether it is design, coding, innovation, entrepreneurship. There's so many fields, but build
Right.
excellence in something.
Right. Right. So it's so interesting. It's such an interesting thing to know and hear that you are focusing on this different segments of it. And I think I will at some stage like to talk a little more about it. But one thing which I have not seen, though I've seen a lot of people talk about it, is identifying the interest levels of the children early. Finding out what is it which appeals. And it could be sports, it could be, to do with arts, or it could be to do with astronomy, or it could be to do with science, or it could be anything, of different. There are 50,000 things which are out there, and one could have interest in that. And identifying and customizing and giving those avenues. When I heard you say you're doing A, B, C, D, and I felt, wow, that's interesting. It's only wish, it was there when we were growing up. So is schools, are you focusing on it, or do you think the in the NEP does it touch that aspect where identifying the interest children's early and then building on it?
It's a bit of a challenge, cash 22, Shesh, because we have to expose children to particular skills to see if they have an interest in it, especially in that age group. But what the
Right.
NEP and just the direction we are going in, even in higher education, is what we call the choice-based credit system in higher education.
Right. Right. Right.
So can we allow students to choose, and can we give them an avenue of options so that they can make those choices? So one is identification. Identification comes through exposure. Once you expose them at an earlier stage with the support of the parents and their teachers, can you identify niche areas that they can work on and give them choice?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Interesting. Interesting. So, Tristha, if I have to ask you one other last question, because we're going to run out, is that it's a very complex, while education looks very, interesting, very, very, but what are your frustrations when you start your day? What is it which bothers you the most, which it takes away, consumes you a lot? What are your frustrations? And what are your frustrations? I also want to know what are your learnings from it and how do you deal with it?
I think my main and only frustration is the way teaching work is viewed, Shesh. And I tell my entire parent body, every conversation I have, I say, just understand the work teachers do is very, very hard. And, I heard this story that was very heart-wrenching when a parent, overheard this. A parent said, if you don't study, you end up being a teacher, right? And so how our society views teaching and teaching work, if the society doesn't value what teachers do, whether it's in any school, a government teacher, public school teacher, private school teacher, any teacher, and that's my pain point, if you cannot see how hard it is to be a teacher, then you are already disadvantaging your child from respecting the teacher in the classroom. If you don't, then your child is not going to respect. And then we have already started on a back foot in learning.
Right.
And so my pain point is everybody should be saying teachers, man, they are COVID warriors. They are the work that they're doing. is nation building, and they're doing the hard work that, I'm sitting in my office, I don't want to do this, teachers are doing the hard work. Now, I wish people thought like that, then we'd have the very best entering the education field, and we'll be transformed as a nation.
Right. Fantastic. And I think what a beautiful point you bring this up, that we all at every level have to start valuing and respecting the work what teachers do. Now, so I think it will be a very interesting topic. You given me an insight to dwell specifically on how should we, what is the message we should tell the society, and how should society and we as a community should start engaging with the teachers. And I think that would be a very interesting way to look at. Now, one last thing before I let you off this thing. What would be your message? What is the one message which you would like to give it to a lot of people who are sitting in the rural part of India? There are a lot of educated people who have just for some different reasons have gone to different places. What would be your message to them who are thinking of wanting to do something in education? What would be your message to them? How would you want to inspire them, and how would you want to get them into the mainstream? Or what should they do to get into the mainstream?
I would welcome them with open arms. If anybody wants to join the field of education and solve the problems, just do it. And it's hard work, but it's really, really worth the effort, because we're changing lives. And I would welcome anybody who wants to do this.
Right.
And I think the people in the rural areas, all the more responsibility, all the more reason to do it. Come learn, take the best practices, and change your community, change your society. I think that way we can start small and do
Tristha, would you be willing to share your contact details, which is where people can reach out and say, this is my interest, this is what I want to do? Would you be happy to help out? Because a lot of people have at different times, at different places, have expressed interest and keenness because they want to do it, but they don't know how to go about it.
Yes.
So I think it's like you need cooking lessons to learn few things, because though you love eating and you want to cook, but you want to go out there. And similarly, a lot of people have that potential to do it, but they need somebody to guide them. So I think, would it be okay for us to contact details with them and
absolutely, and
share us some?
Absolutely. And in fact, I know I didn't mention this to you before, but from the university, we're launching the School of Education. And, it is to train teachers for the classroom, but really to support people who want to make a difference to children through education. And so we're actually putting out resources. We're freely sharing everything that we know. We're building a community of people who want to work in the field of education. And so in the next 3 to 4 months, we're launching this initiative off. But I'm happy to have more people reach out and see what they need. And we're building this community, and we really want to contribute.
So it would be fantastic to get some data and information on that, so that we can share it with our viewers, and then it will be interesting to take it from there.
Absolutely. Would be happy
Tristha, always a pleasure talking to you. You're so well put, so very organized, so very clear, to the point, precise. And I think pleasure talking to you. And I'll look back, connecting back with you to deep dive into a couple of other initiatives, what you're working on at a later date. Thank you very much once again. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Shesh. Lovely having this chat.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.